flag states to the republic which stands one nation. Which your neighbors.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, this is a great opportunity.
Thanks for being here.
Of course, thanks for having us.
Have to ask you, is the pig still around?
Our reflection today will be offered by Don Noble.
Let us reflect. In this season of Thanksgiving, I wanted to share with you a few quotes of giving thanks. First one, I love Thanksgiving because it's a holiday that is centered around food and family, two things of the utmost importance to me. By Marcus Samuelson. Thankfulness is the quickest path to joy. Jefferson Beckley. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest application is not to utter words, but is to live by them. By John F. Kennedy. Gratitude is a quality similar to electricity. It must be produced and discharged and used up in order to exist at all. William Faulkner. And longtime Today Show host William Scott said, Thanksgiving just gives me all warm and tingly and all kinds of wonderful inside. So I hope your Thanksgiving was warm and tingly. Amen.
Thanks, Tom. Welcome, Rotarians and guests. The weekend was pretty spectacular with a victory over the team up north for some of us. I hope you had a meaningful Thanksgiving and hopefully with family and friends. Ron Holton was kind enough to record a video for us today that I would like to share with you.
This is Ron Holtman, a member of the Wooster Rotary Club. Over the years, my wife and I hosted 5 Rotary students in our home. This is Ron Holtman, a member of the Wooster Rotary Club. Over the years, my wife and I hosted 5 Rotary students in our home. Their home countries were Zimbabwe, Sweden, Germany, Ecuador, and Colombia. Both of our own children later became exchange students to Ecuador and Colombia, respectively. Hosting is a wonderfully rich experience. As our family gained knowledge of many different cultures, our student visitors learned much about American life. They also greatly enjoyed connecting with all of the other exchange students in our district activities. Many of the friendships we made then continue today. While the prospect of adding another member to your household may seem daunting at first, we found the students to be very flexible, polite, congenial, and eager to absorb their exchange experiences. Our high school also was very helpful by integrating the students not only academically, but also in extracurricular activities. Together, we learned international diplomacy, and our children enjoyed having an interesting older sibling. We found hosting to be a rewarding and enriching experience. We highly recommend that you take advantage of the opportunities in this worthwhile Rotary program. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. It's always challenging for the Youth Exchange Committee to find those parents, but anything worth doing is challenging. And I would say we get back more than we receive. So Secretary Lind and the Secretary's report.
Thank you, President Allen. Bonnie Ferguson Hall has the
traveling microphone, and actually she will begin by introducing her guests.
Hi, everyone. Today I've brought a couple of my coworkers here for a presentation. So this is David Smith, she's our Director of Development, and Dan Jack, who's our Vice President of Ops and Administrator of Development.
And I think Shara has an update for us today.
Hello, everyone. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. So for me to start off, this was like an incredible month, November. So many things happened, so many good things. And first of all, it was like the closing night of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That was like one of my best days ever I've had here. So much fun. It was such an emotional day, and yeah, just like so much happiness. And then after that, our extended family came to visit us for Thanksgiving, and we went Christmas tree shopping, so that was like a completely new thing for me because I've never been, and that was really fun. Yeah, we got 3 Christmas trees, so that was really fun. And then for Thanksgiving, we went to Michigan, and so in Michigan, I think it snowed like 6 or 8 inches there. So that was like super fun for me to like play in snow with all the cousins and everything. And Thanksgiving was just like wonderful. The food, the family, everything. It was just like happiness, and yeah. And then my host sister, Katie, she had a college visit in Holland, Hope College. So I got to do that with her, and that was just like a very wonderful new experience for me because I've never like really seen like a college awards in America. So like that was super interesting for me. I got to learn about a lot of different stuff. So yeah, but yeah, overall it was just a really nice weekend, and yeah, I hope you had a great weekend as well. So thank you.
And we have an announcement from the podium from past President Phil Merrill.
Go Bucks, that's right. I'll give you a number, 39. That's how many total yards of offense Michigan had in the second half. Is Scott Allen here? That was him. Well, just about every month during the school year, one of the Rotary clubs in our district hosts an overnighter for all the youth exchange students that are currently in our district. Worcester Rotary generally takes the month of January. We host an overnighter here at the church between here and facilities in the lower level. And this year, that date is Saturday, January 3rd. The students are dropped off by Rotarians from the various host clubs around 3 p.m. on Saturday. After some group activities, they have supper here, and then they are taken to Acres of Fun for some laser tag. Then they come back here for more group activities, snacks, and eventually they sleep here in the basement with sleeping bags or blankets that they bring with them. I'm up here today because we need a few volunteers to fill some shifts during the night for security and safety reasons. We already have a volunteer for the 11 o'clock to 1 a.m. shift. What we need is at least one volunteer for each of the following, and don't all raise your hands at the same time. 1 to 3 a.m., 3 to 5 a.m., and 5 to 8 a.m. So it sounds a little bit intimidating, but if you're a night owl, then you could handle the 1 to 3, and if you're an early bird, you can handle the 5 to 8 in the morning. The students are picked up by their Rotary clubs on Sunday morning around 8 a.m. The night shift is relatively light. The exterior doors are locked for security reasons. By around 11 or 11:30, the kids usually find a movie in the downstairs television room, and then gradually, one by one, they drift off to sleep. As a volunteer, you check in on them a few times during the movie to see if all is going well. The night shift volunteers are very important, though. because they give Brent Rice a few hours to catch some shut-eye in one of the back offices on this floor. If you volunteer, I advise you to bring a good book to read. Once again, the date is Saturday, January 3rd. It's actually early in the morning of Sunday, January 4th. The shifts we need to fill are 1 to 3, 3 to 5, and 5 to 8 a.m. I will stay around after the meeting today, near the podium, to meet with anyone who is interested in volunteering. If you need to leave right after the meeting, you can always contact Brent or myself by phone or email. Please consider helping. Youth Exchange only works with the help of Rotary volunteers. Thank you.
Excuse me, my fault. I noticed one visitor and I didn't see her until I restarted. Lauren, if you'd stand up, please. Lauren Diaz is from the Orville Skilled Nursing and Rehab, and she's their admissions director. So welcome, Lauren.
Hi.
Welcome, Rotarians and guests. We hope you enjoy today's program, and we'll come back and visit us again at future meetings. With that, I'm going to introduce Bonnie Ferguson Hall.
Hello again. Today, I am fortunate enough to be joined by two students from the College of Worcester and an advisor. So today I'm joined by Ethan Uhas and Andrew Fisher and Dr. Hamed Goharapour. Okay, let me get that right. So the reason we're speaking to you all today is Westview had the opportunity this year to partner with the College of Worcester through the AMRE project. And I know that Jill Monroe has spoken on this before. Jill unfortunately had some surgery when it wasn't able to join us today, but so Jill and I were talking about this time last year about the opportunity to connect with and utilize the services of the AMRE students. So if you're not familiar with the program, I'm going to just touch on it a little bit, but these guys are the experts, so I'm going to let them do their thing. But AMRE is a program that was developed by the College of Worcester to help with project work for organizations in our area. And we're a nonprofit, but that doesn't mean that everybody who works with the organization is a nonprofit, from my understanding. So Jill and I, about this time last year, started talking about the fact that Westview and its board of directors, we're always trying to look at what we need to do to develop our campus to move forward and serve the greater community to the best of our ability. So something that we have been talking about and thinking about is the opportunity to build some more independent living units on our campus. For those of you that know the Westview campus, we've got about 26 acres total. And if you come in off of Mechanicsburg, we have a big area of land out in front of our campus. So that's the area that we are thinking, we could develop something down that way. Independent living is certainly something that is very needed in the senior living community right now. And it's something that has grown dramatically in the last few years. We have about 33 units currently on our campus, but we even find for us that that is not enough most days. So this is, again, something we're considering. So let's see, December of last year, Jill and I started talking. In February, the applications opened and I submitted the application. It was an easy application to submit if you want to consider this. In April, then we met and planned. Hamed and actually Megan Roble too was another advisor, and I met with them and we started initially planning everything out. So then in May, had the opportunity to meet the students, and I should also mention that they had another student with them, Nicole, and she was her home country was Ghana. I'm sorry, I forgot that. So she was with us through the summer, but she's back in Ghana now. And then in May, the students, we met with our leadership team just to talk about why we wanted to do this program, what we were hoping to gain from it, and how they were going to proceed. So then in June, we started working with them. The project actually ran from May the 23rd through July the 10th. It's about 7 weeks.
And in June, we met with the students, our leadership team, just to game plan for how we were gonna roll this out. And 7 weeks was kind of a tight time frame, so we had to have a good plan. So one of the things we wanted them to do was do a focus group with our residents, some of our existing residents on campus. So then in June, they met with it was a good number of residents actually, and it was an animated conversation that went on for probably close to 2 hours, I think. The residents had a lot to say, which is a good thing, which is very helpful to us. We want to hear what they like about our campus, what they wish we had more of, so we can work to develop that. And then in end of June, they presented they presented those findings and some other things to parts of some group of our leadership staff. And then we wrapped it all up with a larger presentation to our board in July, our board of directors. So the board actually had a great opportunity to ask questions and see firsthand all the work. And it is an impressive amount of work that these students did in 7 weeks, I have to tell you. So there was a fee associated with it. We are again our nonprofit organization, so we did have an opportunity to have some of that underwritten for us, but very nominal fee in my opinion for the amount of work that came from this program. So I really want to turn it over to these guys because I want you to be able to see all of what they presented us with, but I would strongly encourage you, if you are an organization that's looking to get some data or, try to figure out what your next steps are. I know that if you go on the College of Wooster website, the Amory project, you can see all the past projects that have been done. So I strongly encourage you to consider this for a program for your organization. And I'm sure they can speak to other kinds of programs that they've done. So, all right, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to these guys.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Bonnie, and thank you, everyone. This is such a great opportunity to get to speak here and share our research and everything with you guys. So yeah, we are part of the Emory program from the College of Wooster for the Westview Healthy Living team. And first, we'll start by talking a little bit more about Emory.
Yes, good afternoon, friends. My name is Hamid Wailur, Urban Studies faculty member, and as Bonnie said, with my colleague, Dr. Meg Robel, who is on sabbatical leave, not be here today. We co-advised this Emory project. This was my 4th experience advising an Emory project. And actually, Jill asked me to share with you a brief introduction to Emory. Bonnie did a great job introducing everything. Just a very brief introduction again. Emory stands for Applied Method and Research Experience. And the idea is to give the College of Wooster student a unique opportunity to work as consultants with real world entities, organizations, for-profit, non-profit, institutions locally. And we believe this has multiple benefits for everyone. This is win-win-win. This is win for students because they can develop their skills, technical skills, and apply what they learn in the college, the real world issue problem, present in a professional manner, and work full time. And it's a win for faculty advisors because the process is highly competitive and selective. So we receive a lot of applications, do interviews, sometimes in-person interview, video interviews, and then we always hope to have 8 to 10 teams of 2-3 students. As Bonnie said, we usually have 3 to 4 students from Ashesi University in Ghana. I hope we can have them in the next years as well. Again, they are selected through a very competitive process and join us and stay with us for 7-8 weeks. And we think it's a win for the clients because they can obtain low-cost solutions to issues that would less likely be solved internally in Wooster. So for this project, from day one, after our initial meeting with Bonnie, our approach was to stay neutral. So we knew that they need a feasibility study to kind of justify the development that they're looking for. And we kind of have an idea about what they want. Well, we try to stay neutral and really study if this project is feasible or not. And we tested our findings several times through mixed method. We had 3 students, and each of them are expert. They are from 3 different majors. And one was expert in quantitative analysis, the other one on qualitative. They conducted several interviews. They even reached out to their competitors as independent researchers to analyze the market. So through different steps, they tested their findings, and I believe they successfully delivered a good project. So I let Ethan and Drew present their findings. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So just to give a quick outline of our presentation of what we'll be talking about, we start by introducing ourselves and then defining the sort of project scope of going into it, what we knew we wanted to find. Kind of going along with that, introducing our project is our methods for how we defined our market area, as well as the demographic within that market area that we'll be looking at. And then our information when it comes to talking to similar facilities, both in Worcester and Wayne County, as well as outside that are similar.
Beyond that, we talked about a potential buy-in model that Westview was considering to use when choosing a pricing model for the new units. We talked about how we reached out to other facilities to figure out how a similar model was used at those facilities and how we can compare the context of them. We looked at the focus groups that we conducted with Westview residents, and we used to use the responses from to build a survey that we gave to more residents and a select group of non-residents. And then we make some conclusions. So this is all the final project that we delivered to Westview. And so we've already gotten the kind of the Cliffs Notes versions from Bonnie and Dr. Pavard before.
So to introduce ourselves, I'll start. My name's Ethan Uhas. I'm a junior here at the College of Worcester. I'm a double major in economics and data sciences with a minor in political sciences. And for this project, I kind of took the head on the quantitative analysis side of things. So my job was mostly pulling census data and creating graphs and visualizations based off of that, just trying to get a sort of numbers-based look at the feasibility of this project.
I'm Andrew Fisher. I'm class of 2026, so I'm a senior here now at College of Worcester. So I'm a computer science major and a poli-sci minor. So I've got some statistics experience, and one thing what I really took the lead on during this project was really like the research into the state of these cities. So our third member was Nicole, who was here for the 7-week period of AMRI as basically an exchange student from Ghana or in Ishesi University. So she's originally from Zimbabwe. She's pursuing a degree in economics and focused a lot on the qualitative analysis. And so the focus groups and the survey sections.
So when it comes to the scope of our project going into it, we knew what we wanted to do is break down this project into 3 phases. So we started with preliminary analysis. This was a lot of census data and contact with community leaders. We met with a couple of sort of local county level and city level leaders here in Worcester and Wayne County to sort of have a story to go along with the data that we were seeing. And we used that to sort of compile questions for our focus group, which is when we got to talk with Westview residents and sort of get a picture of what living like there is like for them, what they like, what they would change, things like that. And we use those insights to build and work on our third phase of our project, which was the community survey. So this was basically taking our focus group findings and administering this sort of larger survey to people in and around the Westview community to try to build a sort of picture of if Westview was going to conduct this expansion, what people are looking for in that.
So one important thing to get right about the presentation is figure out what market area we're looking at for the project. So on a broad scale, we chose Wayne County as basically the broad market area for where Westview is going to be drawing people from. So Worcester's status as a sort of metropolitan region allows it to operate kind of independently from the bigger cities like Cleveland or Columbus. So we don't need to lose a lot of people to services in those areas because we have more or less enough resources to keep people in-house in Wayne County. And so other than people from like the very edges of the county, we came to the conclusion that a lot of seniors from Wayne County are going to would come to Worcester to seek, senior care. And so one thing we looked at for our target demographics was that independent living ages, the ages of people who are in this care vary wildly, but are generally in the mid to late 70s. So the senior communities, like the low cutoff is age 55, where you can't be in there if you're younger than that. But often most people who actually end up getting into these communities are in their mid to late 70s and they age up to the 80s and their 80s and 90s. And so what we defined as our target demographic was the seniors that are age 65 plus based on the US Census age brackets.
So with that sort of established, looking at our primary market area of Wayne County, one interesting thing we saw is how Worcester is the largest portion of Wayne County's population by a pretty large metric. Worcester is 23% of Wayne County, and for the record, the second place would be Chippewa Township at about 8.5%. So it's a pretty large concentration just in Worcester alone. When it comes to some housing information, just to sort of give a background on this, we can see that the median household value of Wayne County is about 204,600, median gross rent 849 a month, and the median home size is 1,800 square foot. So going a little bit more into the age distribution. So one thing that we saw a lot is that there's this sort of national trend of an aging population. So you can see in the table at the bottom, this is a national trend, but Wayne County is on the more severe side of that. Right now, percent of the population aged 65 and up is higher in Wayne County than it is in Ohio and the United States. Right now, it's sitting at about 18.6% of the population. So this is something that a lot of people have talked about. We had a great conversation with Worcester Development Coordinator Jonathan Millay. He shared a lot of information with us, and he was a great resource to contact a couple different times. And so he basically backed up all of this data to talk about that in Worcester and Wayne County, people are getting older, which sort of is our first little clue that there may be demand for a possible expansion. Going a little bit more into trying to see the projection of this population, aging population, we can see on the right here is the 65 plus population in Wayne County from 2010 to 2023. You can see that portion has been on the rise. And we got a little bit more information from Jonathan Millay and some more graphs that went back further than we could find to show that this has been this aging of the population has been going on since even back in the 60s. And so even from 2010 to 2023, you can see that the proportion of population age 65 and up has increased by about 5%, which is a pretty big amount for just 15 years. And when it comes to sort of looking ahead, on the left, we have projected national growth rates in the 80 plus population for the whole country. And you can see that this aging population is projected to increase further over at least the next 5 years. When it comes to looking a little bit more about the people within Wayne County, our target demographic, we can see the total Wayne County median income is about $70,000. And we can see that out of our 65 and up Wayne County residents, 70.1% of that target demographic falls in or below that metric. Interestingly, though, we saw that the percent living in owner-occupied housing is 81.6%, which is higher than our state and national levels. This indicates that Wayne County seniors are commonly homeowners with a high level of capitalization, and they have a lot of sort of capital and property to their name. Furthermore, when it comes to the family and household sizes, this was something that we learned that was a really interesting insight pointed out when we talked with Worcester Mayor Bob Reynolds, which was another great conversation we got to have. So we can see that the average household size has been in a long downward trend, and our target demographic of Wayne County seniors age 65 and up is even lower than that. So we can see that the average household size for seniors age 65 and up is 1.83 people. Furthermore, Mayor Reynolds sort of talked to us about how there's an interesting mismatch in the sort of housing demand and supply here in Worcester. A lot of the houses in Worcester are sort of much older and larger houses built for sort of baby boomer era large families. So we can see that Worcester's housing supply is not really fit for the smaller family units of the modern day, and especially for senior residents who are having even smaller age residents. They're not looking to sort of stay in the big baby boomer era houses that Worcester commonly supplies. So sort of segueing that a little bit into demand for housing, and specifically demand for senior living, we had a conversation with a couple different local facilities, as well as Good Shepherd Home and Brethren Retirement Community, which are not within Wayne County, but they have a very similar sort of model to Westview. So they were a great resource that we got to talk with their sort of board and leadership. So when it comes to what we notice is that there is a very high demand and a very low vacancy rate in Worcester. Every facility we talked to within Worcester had a 0% vacancy rate with some wait list commonly. So this is already seeing that most of these facilities, when they are built, they fill up fast.
So one thing that Jonathan Millay talked to us about was the upcoming developments that are planned to be built in Worcester. So we got this great map of like all these planned developments that are either in progress, in the planning stages, or merely just proposals. And so what this tells us is that, and what he talked to us a lot about, is that how Worcester has been trying to build housing like mad to try to basically appeal to families and young people to move here and basically replace the seniors that are aging out of the workforce, to sort of keep enough of a workforce here that we don't have an exploding senior population and a decreasing working population. And so that means encouraging a lot of local housing developments. And so that's what all these projects are. However, what he talked about was that there are not a lot of senior living projects among these in progress. So there was only one proposal, 181, and it kind of stalled out as the developer was sort of considering other places to take the project. And so even if it was completed, he told us pretty specifically that like it would not significantly cut into potential business that Westview had. So that gave us a lot of that made us pretty optimistic about the project. So that's the one that was the one facility. So the buy-in plan. Westview, when they reached out to us, wanted to inquire about the potential of a different pricing plan than usual. So a lot of independent living facilities, if you look around, like most of the ones that are available in different places across the country, offer just a very basic like monthly rent plan. That residents will move in, they will pay rent every month, like basically the same as renting an apartment, or renting an apartment. So they'll have a place on the campus, they'll have their own building. And so what the buy-in plan proposes is that it's a type of pricing where residents will basically purchase a unit up front. So they put all the money for the unit up front, and they will basically own it to a certain extent. And if they leave, then they will receive a certain portion of the cost back, depending on how long they stay. The longer they stay, the less money they'll give back if they eventually move out. So intuitively, this makes a lot of sense, right? For seniors who have sold their home to move into a senior living facility, they'll typically have like a lot of cash on hand. And so it would make sense to be able to spend that all up front, so that the facility like Westview would have like a significant amount of money to invest now, instead of just being able to, the senior has a lot of money, but they'll just need to dip into it in small monthly amounts. It makes a little more intuitive sense for giving more flexibility to the facility up front. And so, however, the downside of this is that it requires the residents to be highly capitalized in advance. It requires them to have that upfront money to be able to pay the initial cost. And so what we wanted to see is that can this model work? Are there similar facilities that have worked with this model before? And so what we found is that we talked to 2 facilities that were outside Worcester, one in Fostoria and one in Greenville. And we talked to Wayne Manor in Worcester, which has sort of a similar but not quite the same plan as the one we're trying to propose. So we interviewed a member of the marketing team of Wayne Manor. And so what they found was that they had mostly buying units and a couple of rentals, and that the independent living residents get priority to join their assisted living campus. So once they basically age out of the independent living and they need more full-time care, they get priority to move into the assisted living, where they will be able to get more medical care easier. So when we talked to Brethren and Good Shepherd, we got basically pretty similar responses, right? They have 3 campuses at Brethren that are over 200 units, and all of them are either occupied or pre-sold. So that points to a lot of demand elsewhere in Ohio for the same sort of services. So they have certain perks for the residents, like after 4 years, they get 25% of their payment back. And their pricing estimates were in like the $300,000 to $400,000 range for that big upfront payment for the house. So with Good Shepherd, the pricing was a lot lower for the upfront payments, and that it was estimated like $125,000 to $175,000. So they have a much smaller campus of only like about 30 independent living units, but it's the same sort of proposal, and it seems to be working very well for them. So the next thing we did in our project was conduct a focus group of Westview residents to basically gauge, how do you feel about the living experience at Westview? What things are important to you about living here? So the idea of this is that we can get a good idea of what the residents are prioritizing while they're here, what they think is working, what they think is not working. So if we build more housing, we have a good idea of, we're able to give a good idea to Westview of what they can prioritize for making new housing, with a little added bonus of we get the residents to sort of talk to us, these independent researchers, about what they feel is working or not, and so we can improve the stuff for the people who live here now. And so Nicole, a third member, worked on taking the transcripts that we got from these meetings and making this word cloud of like what they felt out of living here. And so a lot of it was very positive. A lot of people felt very secure, felt very safe. They felt that it was affordable. They felt that a lot of the services that Westview offers were very helpful to them. So it feels very homey. So we have a couple of quotes from people focus group. And so what we used from this focus group was that we took what people said and we sort of created a broader community survey. Before we did that, sorry, this is a different graph. So most of the things that they mentioned were very specific, like specific amenities that they wanted more of or what they were satisfied with. So we made a little graph of stuff that sort of came up at different points throughout the interview. Like socialization, transportation, and parking. Socialization was a big thing where they wanted stuff like more opportunities to talk to each other. One thing that a couple of them expressed a need for was like a book club, and so a couple of them started talking that we felt after that focus group that we might have like accidentally started a Westview book club just based on accidentally broaching the subject. And so we took these responses and we made like a very broad community survey that we gave to a couple Westview residents and a select group of non-residents that Westview hinted at us that might be people who would move into the residence later. So we surveyed them on things like what age, how old are you now and how old do you think you'd be when you would move in? What kind of amenities in a living community would you prioritize? And so we got some takeaways away from that. So of the residents, we found that most of them move in around age 72 to 77. And so that is basically pretty in line with what we saw earlier about the average age of independent living facilities.
So when it comes to our survey findings, one of the things that we did was look at sort of amenities that are important to Westview residents. We basically asked them on their importance level of how important having this amenity and how important the quality of this amenity is to them, which is the first column on that table. And then we asked them what the satisfaction of them, how they feel that Westview is fulfilling that need. And basically compared that into the difference about where Westview is exceeding expectations and where they can improve. So we noticed that some of our best things that they were looking at that Westview residents really liked or felt that their expectations were being exceeded were the scenery and views, as well as the lawn care, the parking. And then we saw that sort of the access to structured activities and socializations with other residents were things that sort of fell short on that metric. When it came to other preferences that seniors were looking for, we asked them on housing units. One of the things that we were looking at was whether or not residents prefer houses that are connected with one another or sharing a wall or standalone. We saw that actually kind of surprising us. It was relatively split, but there was an edge that seniors did slightly prefer the housing units that were connected. We can see that we had a higher than average preference towards 2-bedroom units, relatively split between different types of bathrooms, but we did see that there was a really high importance placed by residents, and we saw this in the survey as well as the focus group, the importance placed on their sort of freedom and ability to design and customize their own, personalize their living space. Lastly, one of the things that we wanted to look into was their preference on maintenance workers coming in and out of their house, or if we wanted to prioritize external access to utilities. And one thing we noticed that there's a really high level of like trust in the staff there at Westview and a really high level of connection with those staff members. So it seemed like Westview residents were not concerned at all with maintenance workers coming into their homes. So the conclusion from this sort of more qualitative community needs assessment is that we really noticed that the sort of like independence, safety, and community at Westview, especially with the sort of trust put in the staff, are really central to Westview residents and very important and something that should be, they're definitely doing right and they should continue to do so. A couple of inconsistencies we noticed we had some seniors talking about sort of different like lack of shower rails, additional bathrooms, things like that were sort of certain units were falling behind. So we saw that there were some priorities there. We saw, once again, that really strong interest in more organized social activities and shared spaces, as well as more access to sort of cars and garages or even just transport options, be able to get in and around Worcester was something that we saw was very important. So continuing with our conclusions, shifting back a little bit to the demand analysis, we really saw that through our research, we found that our target demographic is on a long upward trend. We are seeing this sort of population that Westview is looking into it has been increasing for a long time and is projected to continue to increase. Housing is an issue here in Worcester, talked about by a couple different community leaders that that we interviewed, and ultimately we saw that that demand would be there. We can see that Worcester's significance as the sort of seat of Wayne County and the largest population center puts facilities within Worcester at a unique spot where sort of residents from around Wayne County are moving towards Worcester as they get older. We are seeing things like the mismatch in housing supply that could indicate a high level of demand for smaller, more personal units, especially for the the smaller family sizes of our target demographic. And lastly, we saw that this sort of demand, that this sort of unique focus on community safety and sort of extra level of care that Westview has sort of appears to be pretty unique and setting them apart from similar facilities within our primary market area.
And so some conclusions about the buy-in plan with that. The advantages it offers several perks to people who would, potentially invest in it, right? It gives financial flexibility to Westview to finance new housing and affordable residence with the money they get up front, and allows residents more control over their living space if they have basically a stake in it, if they have a partial ownership of it. Secondly, it has a valid proof of concept. We looked at 3 different facilities that successfully used this kind of model and found that isolated examples of other facilities nationwide who kind of use another thing. And so it is clearly something that works and has worked for different facilities around the country. And third, there is local demand viability. Wayne County seniors have high enough capitalization rates that we believe that it would be, economically good. It would be an economically good idea for them to pursue this idea if they wish.
So we sort of took all this information, that was our research. We compiled it all together in a final report and presentation that you just saw. We presented it to the Westview board, and it was a really great experience overall. It was great. We really appreciated the sort of accessibility and friendliness of the Westview staff. It was really great working with them, and we were really satisfied with the results of our research. So that's about it. Do we have any questions?
Well, you can see how impressive these young men are, and I mean, they blew us away with what they were able to pull together, and just really proud of the way that they interacted with our community, members within our community, and helped us pull all this data together. So if there's specific questions about AMRI, or if you don't know a lot about Westview, maybe that sparks some questions for you, I can answer those as well.
Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. Nothing surprising about the AMRI success, but I have a quantitative question. In your analysis, did you get any read on what's the scale of the demand? You happen to describe that pay program that's actually almost identical to what 50+ units are being built in Warville right now, or Philip. So I'm curious what you see the scale of the demand.
That was something that we really sort of wrestled with, is trying to quantify demand. That is pretty difficult and was a little outside of the scope of our research to try to get an exact number of like how many people. Most of our like research into demand was just trying to figure out the presence of our target demographic and the vacancy of similar areas. So like finding an exact number of the amount of people that were there is a sort of a higher level and a little out of the scope of our research, given our time constraints. But it certainly would be a direction for future research.
One thing that we did to figure out the scope of the project was that we looked at other feasibility studies that other facilities conducted. Of like, hey, we're building an independent living facility. Let's conduct a feasibility study, and who they got to do that. So often they got firms who specialize in this sort of thing, and the firms use these specific population data. Like, oh, how can we get this data? I see. You pay a different firm hundreds of dollars. And so we were on a tighter budget than that in general. And so we did what we could with like publicly available free information that we could find online to make our estimates.
I can just tell you from the industry standpoint, certainly, the senior population is, as you saw in the graph, it's going to continue to rise exponentially, even over the next 15 years. They call it the silver tsunami, if you've never heard that term before. And they say the wave is just cresting. So the need for safe and secure and affordable housing for seniors, whatever model you utilize, whether you use a rental model like we do currently or a buy-in model that many other campuses use, there is going to continue to be a really high demand for that type of living. Also, people that are 55 and over are just deciding that they'd rather go travel than have to do their lawn all summer long, and whatever the case may be. So people are finding that there's trade-offs in their life too. Time versus money, sometimes, your time wins out. So I think there's a big consideration for that as well.
You mentioned that the average age of Wayne County is higher than other national averages. Do you have any knowledge or guess why that's the case? What's unique here?
Good living, good farming, I don't, I think typically in more rural settings versus urban, you do seem to see that as a trend. So my background is in gerontology, that's what my degree is, so I've learned a lot about that over the years. I think you'll see that. I think also sometimes people tend to move back to areas outside of cities and back to places where their families are as they age. So that might be part of that as well.
Fine, and the other gentleman also, in your discussions with the residents at, Westview, I guess my question is there much of an overlap between that concept and the existing condos that we have in Worcester already that have been pretty well established for 20-something years now? I guess, why would somebody go to Westview instead of just getting a condo where they don't have to mow or they don't? Yeah,
Sure. I mean, I hope you guys want to speak to anything they shared, and then I can speak just.
I think one major thing is that it's a community specifically for seniors and often of retirees. And so you have a campus with a bunch of very close by and very connected community members. And there are like services that, you guys offer.
Mhm.
You have exercise, a gym, a pool, stuff like that, that you might find, elsewhere, have to go downtown to find, but it's all very connected on a campus. And so they have structured trips out to go in different places downtown, but also having enough on campus to like sustain the needs of the seniors who live there without having them to be overly mobile if they don't actually want to be.
I think a lot of it for us is the continuity of care as you move forward. We have 5 levels of care on our campus. So you start with independent living, then you can progress to assisted living. You can also be in skilled nursing, short-term care if the need arises. And then of course, long-term nursing care. We also have within those 2 units, we have 2 memory care units on our campus. We have 1 in our assisted living and 1 in nursing. And we find that when a lot of people are moving onto our campus, what they really like is the fact that no matter what happens to them in their lifetime, be it financially or physically, they're already a part of us and they have a priority for whatever level of care they need next. So I'll give an example. We have had many couples move into our independent living, and perhaps one of the spouses health changes. So for instance, right now we have we just recently had one, the wife was still in independent living and the husband came over for skilled care after a hospitalization. And then he was able to go back over to independent living with her. We have a couple that started with us. He's a real tall man. She's short like I am, and his needs physically changed and she wasn't able to provide as much care to him anymore. So he now resides on our assisted living. She still lives in our independent living, and she's over in our building 2-3 times a day with him. And so that still gives her the ability to do the things that she wants to do, but also knowing that when his needs really exceeded what she could help him with, that those were met for him as well. So I think that sense of security, especially for a lot of families these days, kids are scattered to the wind and they want to know that when mom and dad move on to a campus, that we're going to help take care of them for the rest of their time here.
Thank you very much for a fascinating presentation. On behalf of Rotary, we have the Rotary 4-way test. And Bonnie, I have one for you too, although I think you know it. So, thank you again. Very, very interesting and very timely presentation, for sure. I have a few announcements before we go. If you can help out January 3rd and 4th, please see Phil after the meeting. Please mark your calendars. We will not be here the 22nd of December, the 29th. And next week, next Monday, the 8th, we will start at noon because we'll just be distributing checks to those of us, to those groups who helped us with Flag Project. Also Big Ten Championship is next Saturday, the 6th. And last month I forgot to wish the Marine Corps happy birthday. The Navy was in October, so happy 250th. So with that, we stand adjourned.